where you're from and where you live now.
I am living in Hudson. I've been there for, I actually grew up in Hudson since 5th grade. Went through all the schooling there, met my wife. She moved in to Hudson when I was a freshman in high school. So she stayed with her, went to school in Pittsburgh, and then got the chance to move back after I graduated college. So, and then I've been here since, probably 1991. Been back in Hudson. We actually moved back into Stowe, and then a little bit later moved into Hudson.
Okay. When did you start playing poker, and what got you interested in the game?
I've been playing for about 20 years. My family had a condo up in Lake Tahoe area, and poker, they had like Harvey's up there, had this huge poker room, and I've always thought, oh, poker seems interesting. And actually started playing 7-card stud, right? Quarter ante, and bought my first poker book, which was the 14 hands to play in 7-card stud. Don't play any other starting hands. And I remember being so excited when I'd win, $20, $30, $40 after sitting there, for whatever, 5 hours. And then, it was just a fun time. And then when the Hold'em craze kind of blew up, started to get into that game, limit games obviously first, and read a bunch of books and tried to figure out how the game worked. And now here we are at the 1-2 no limit pretty much.
So how much have you read? And because of that reading, do you think that you have a really good understanding of the theories and the strategies and the mathematical equations, etc.?
Yeah, I would say yes. I have read a bunch of books. I probably have not read a book in the last 3-4 years. Because once you go through all the books, then you're pretty much just reading the same thing again. I think it's all experience at that point. No book can really teach you how to read players. They can give you the basics, but all the math. I'd say, I'm a math player, but I think that mostly applies to cash games. And in cash games, tight aggressive is pretty much how I stick, but in tournaments, I can play any, at any point I could be playing any type of game, depending on the mood of the game, the feel, my position, the opponents. But I think some of the tournament books were really good. The Dan Harrington books that came out, I thought were kind of put people over to the next step. And then that Formula 2 book was pretty good.
How often do you play poker? Is it traditionally cash or tournament? And how often do you play online?
Don't play online anymore. Used to play online a bunch, but ever since everything kind of fizzled there with Full Tilt and Ultimate Bet, all those sites kind of getting busted and going down, I probably not played online since that happened. Cash games I play probably twice a week, mostly at the local club, the Sons of Herman. Know everybody there, so go out and play, play the 1-2 no limit. I would say tournaments are my favorite game. I think you can mix up your play. Cash games become, pretty rote. If you have the bankroll and time and you're not in a super negative variance, you're ultimately going to win money. I say I'd like to win money, but I think I like the social and the competitiveness more. I'm not playing to pay any checks, and I'm not playing to pay bills, I'm just playing to have fun and, enjoy the game and the company. So I think tournaments are my favorite. And I love whenever I'm in Vegas, I always go out to Venetian and play those tournaments and Rivers. And so I probably play tournaments and work my cash game around those.
What kind of tournaments do you play when you go to the casinos?
Whatever's available, mostly all no limit hold'em, but I played anywhere from the $60 tournaments to, $580 tournaments. I think the Venetian, I would say I play right in the middle range, right? If it's $120 buy-in, the Venetian structure, I like to have a decent starting stack, and I like to, have a good blind structure. I have played a couple of tournaments in the World Series of Poker. I think it was 1,500 a couple years ago, and last year the 1,000. I probably wouldn't do that again. I just think starting with 3,000 in chips and the structure there, you just have to be so aggressive, because I'd rather be out in 2 hours than, than sit there for 3 days and still not do anything. And their side tournament structures were so good that, I played those and I came in 9th in one and 23rd in one and, got all my money back. So that was pretty good. I'd rather save up and play a $2,500 or $5,000 tournament, I think, than a $1,000 tournament.
What do you think your strengths are as a poker player?
I think my personality is one of the strengths. And I know I was on the World Poker Tour once. Actually, that's kind of the fun stuff that I brought. When online poker was big, I won the Aruba trip in 2004. And I remember somebody commented at that table I was at, and it was after a while, a couple of changes, tables had broken up, and one of the guys said, anytime somebody new, I'd be like, hey, I'm Marco, how you doing? And they said, oh, he's the cruise director, of the of the table. And I think that just puts people at ease with me. They, not that they don't want to play against me or don't want to bust me, because that, you want to bust your grandmother if you're sitting at the table with her. But I just think I'm not I'm not a force that people think, there's no negativity there coming off of me. So I think that's good. I don't get mad. I know aces are going to get cracked. You get, especially in tournaments. Cash games, I probably get more frustrated in cash games getting cracked than I do in tournaments. And like I said, if I'm the first one out and I played the way I wanted to and I thought through my decisions, and then that's what happens. That's how it rolls sometimes. I'd much rather make the wrong decision but have thought through it and made a decision that I thought based on gut, and whatever it's wrong, versus make a snap decision and say, oh dang, if I would have just thought about it for 10 more seconds, I probably would have factored that in and made a different call.
What's your favorite hand?
That's a good question. I mean, wow. In tournaments, in cash games, it's aces. In tournaments, I like to get tricky with some hands like the Daniel Negreanu hands, 7-9. Obviously if it's suited, it's better. I just won a huge pot with 6-8. After 6 people called, I called because I'm like, it was $20. This was happened to be a cash game, but it was a $20 raise. But I'm like, I'm either going to fold and lose that $20, or I'm going to nail, a big pot. And I flopped a straight, and other people flopped a bunch of stuff, and it was like a $700 pot. And I'm like, how do you play 6-8? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just a donkey. I had a feeling. Certainly the big pocket pairs, but some of those trickier hands where opponents can't put you on them. And sometimes I play aces like those hands, and sometimes I play those hands like aces. So you never quite know, where I'm at.
Other than those types of situations, do you have any other weaknesses?
I say my biggest weakness at the table would be getting, relying too much on people I know. If I think they're play a certain way, getting trapped into not thinking that they can be tricky once in a while. So I know I mix up my game. I think I sometimes forget that other people mix up their game, and especially if it's a player that I played with a lot. I'm much better playing with strangers. I give them no credit for anything, and I weigh all the possibilities. And once I kind of peg you at something, I sometimes zone in on that. So I've been trying to basically, think through some more scenarios, and obviously people showing down hands, that kind of lets you say, oh yeah, I forgot he plays those once in a while.
Was your best game a tournament game or a cash game? Or do you have one of each to tell us about?
My biggest win was a tournament game. It was in Aruba. I won 7,000. Because it was, I won it online, I had the whole entry and the flight and everything. So basically that 7,000 was all profit. If you bought into the game, it would have only been $1,000 profit. So it was 7,000. I think we blew 3,000 on the trip just because it was a blast. Did all sorts of gambling and sightseeing and all that stuff. But that was my biggest win. Cash game, actually one of the most exciting things happened to me in the cash game just the other day. And it's probably happened before, but this is the one time I knew it happened, and it was just like so pumped up as I had got aces to fold when I had absolutely nothing. And I was in position. I wouldn't have won had I not been in position, but I played it and told a story, and the board kept getting better for my story. It ended up being 4 diamonds on the board. He had 2 aces, neither one was a diamond. At the end, I'm like, I knew he had me beat, so I'm like, do I just check and take my loss, or do I try and get him off the hand? And he was just on the borderline of having enough money where I didn't know if he'd say, oh man, that's so rude. I always tell people, during my meetings, you turn off your phone ringers. I apologize.
It's okay. We can edit this, so.
Not a big deal.
Back up a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
And then go through it.
So I got them to fold with aces because the board came with 4 diamonds, and I was wondering, they were just on the borderline. Neither of us had enough money where if I bet something. So I actually thought about it a little bit, and then I moved all in with my last 150 that he'd have to call, and he immediately flipped up his hand and said, oh, that sucks. And I mucked my hand. I'm not one of these players to rub it in your face. Plus, I don't want him to, I don't give out information unless I need to. But I just told him, I said, oh, dude, that sucks. I hate when I have aces and, I don't have the one of the suit. So that was a nice spot. That's kind of, right there's your case for why poker's a game of skill. No other game I can't trick the roulette ball, to trick somebody to think it's in another slot when it's not. So.
Elaborate a little bit more about your thoughts about skill versus luck in tournament and how you use that in your strategy.
I think the skill, I weigh skill way more than luck because I think you make the right decisions based on skill. Okay, your skill at understanding math, at reading cards, understanding what players may or may not do, and making the correct decision. That's all skill and knowledge, experience playing the game. Once you've made the right decision, I can't change the cards that are coming down, right? Aces get beat, flop straights get beat, nut flushes get beat. So if I make the right decision, then I'm happy and see what happens. Get sucked out on doesn't mean I'm not disappointed, but that's going to happen, and I'm going to do the same thing to you. So those cancel each other out. But if I have more skill than you, I'm going to win in the long run, right? We're hopefully eventually going to have the same amount of luck, good and bad.
Who's your favorite professional poker player?
I like 2 people really. Dan Harrington I like a lot. I think he has a bunch of class. I like the way he plays. I like his style. I know he's a little bit of an older player, so when the poker all came really big, he wasn't the flash on the screen. You saw him in the World Series, but I just always thought he had class and was a good guy. And then Daniel Negreanu is probably my other. I think he's fun. He has a good time at the table. My personality, I think mimics Daniel's. I'm always the friendly guy at the table. I'm always having fun. It's always like, oh man, how do you call with that? Not in an angry way, but in a fun way.
Okay. Do you think you have any table tells that you know about? I
try very hard not to have tells. I try to do the same thing all the time. So when I always, after I bet, I look back at my hand. There's certain times when I want to, so I always look back at my hand, while the betting is completing before the flop every single time. So no matter what I have, I always try to bet the same way. And then sometimes I try and mix it up. Sometimes I'll just throw in chips and say nothing. Sometimes I'll throw them in and say raise, but I'll do it differently. I think one of the best poker books I ever did read was Mike Caro's book on poker tells. I just thought, that is, and it's so amazing even today how true that is. When you can just see somebody do tell and exactly, I'm like, oh man, if I was in the hand with that person, there's no doubt in my mind what's going on. So that's good. So, I don't know, you'll have to tell me after the season if I have any tells. Tony, do I have any tells?
Oh, so many I can't tell you.
Damn it! Oh no! If I start doing that, it means I have a good hand.
Tell us why you want to play poker being broadcast live on the internet.
I just think it's cool that the technology, I'm actually in IT, so the technology, especially when I saw the RFID table, I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. Whether one person watches or, obviously it's going to be a group that's very intricate into poker. It's going to be, the Akron people, it's going to be your friends and family. I just think that's a really cool aspect, the technology part of it. And being on camera, I have no problem with. You know, I kind of done theater all my life, and I've done other things. So, you know, it's kind of cool to be. Yeah, everyone always dreams of when World Poker Tour is huge, I want to make the final table and be on camera and do that. So I never had that chance. Never got that far in any of those events. So hope to do it here.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your poker skills or your knowledge or your experience?
Yeah, I'll show you my fun stuff. So I brought a couple things. We were talking about poker players, and when I was in Aruba, I took a bunch of pictures, and I only brought one. I had pictures with Daniel Negreanu, with Phil Hellmuth, John Jawanda, Devilfish, all that stuff. But here's my favorite picture that I brought to show you today.
I'll put it up to the camera so everybody can.
Had to
Robert
be
will be jealous.
Yes,
with
Robert will be jealous.
Shauna Hyatt. I saw her, I was coming out, my wife, this is in Aruba, my wife was already on the beach. I think I was coming down a little bit later, maybe after playing some cash or something. And I saw Shauna in the pool with, you know, the cameras around her doing one of her, you know, promo entries. I ran out to the ocean, the beach, and said, "Honey, bring your camera, bring your camera." So she came back, and my wife took pictures of me with Shauna Hyatt. So that's my favorite poker picture. And then also in that tournament, so I placed in that money and won $7,000. But they also that year had gold bracelet events. So I think you played online until you got to the final table, and then finished the final table there. So they had, you know, no limit hold'em, Omaha high-low, and I happened to make the final table in 7-card stud. I think I was about mid chip stack, and I ended up winning and having my first gold bracelet presented to me by Annie Duke during the final awards. So I always thought that was cool to say, hey, you know, it's not a World Poker win, it's not a World Series win, but it's a gold bracelet.
It's still, it's a trophy.
Yep, and it says 2004 UltimateBet.com, Poker Classic, 7-card stud, 8 or better, by the way.
Great.
So event champion. So I thought that was always a cool kind of tick to check off and say, you know, hey, I did it. If I never win another bracelet, I've got something.
Yeah.
Good bucket list.
Very good.
Yep, good bucket list item. Absolutely.
I have a new one, thank you.
Well, thanks. That was great.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.